Hey everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome to my talk on getting ahead of the game and avoiding release drama. In this talk, I'm going to walk you through a few examples of things that can go wrong in an iOS release and show you how with a very simple technique we can help spotting them early and help you and your team gain confidence in the release process. First of all, I'm Paul, I'm a senior iOS engineer, a BBC player. I'm originally from Barcelona, but I'm currently based in Manchester. I love Swift and developer tooling, and as a random fact, I collect football shirts and I love football. So let's paint a picture. Let's say we work in a team that's building the next big calorie tracker app called NutriFit, and this app is already out in the wild. It's already been released, but since the previous release, we've implemented a number of features. The app is built with UIKit from the ground up, and it's a modular code base. So it's got Swift packages and frameworks in the form of Xcode projects. The new release includes the first Swift UI views, like the one on the right, which is the today view, and the CI is all set up using Fastlane. So let's take a quick look at what the CI looks like. There is a main pipeline, so this is triggered automatically on every push to main. It runs the unit tests, it runs the UI tests, and it uses the debug configuration of the application. Then there's the PR pipeline, which has the exact same configuration as the main pipeline, but it also performs some code style checks. It is also triggered and run automatically when a push to a PR branch occurs. So these code style checks are there so that we can ensure coding standards are met before we merge into main. And then there's the release pipeline, and this is the one that we're actually going to focus on as part of this presentation. For me, it's the most important one. It's not run as often, but when you need it, it really needs to succeed. And this release pipeline has 4 steps. The first one, it needs to be manually triggered by the user, so the user has to go into the dashboard, whether it being GitHub or Bitrise or whatever CI provider you use. It needs to be manually triggered. It also bumps the version of the app, so it increments it. It could be a patch version, or it could be a minor version that gets bumped. It also archives the app, so it generates an IPA that can then be uploaded to App Store Connect, which is the last step in the process. So as I said, we've got many new features since the past release, and we're eager to get them out to our users. What do? We release. So the first thing we do, as I said, is we manually trigger the pipeline. What this will do, as we see, it succeeds. It's all fine. The pipeline is running now. It bumps the version of the app, but we see that it fails when it archives, so we can't get a release out. And then obviously it doesn't upload to App Store Connect because the archive has failed. So there's no app version that we can upload to App Store Connect. So what's this archive error that we've got? Where has it come from? Well, it's a rather unusual archive error. It looks like there's an error with the new Swift UI view, which we see on the right. That's the today view that I introduced earlier. We hadn't used Swift UI before, so it's the first introduction of a Swift UI view. The logs are saying that no Swift UI symbols could be found. The solution is actually not obvious, and we have to scramble and investigate further because we really want a release to go out today, but we need to, pool all our resources into looking into this. So we try and archive locally, and we are getting the same errors, but archiving is not something we do often locally. And when we run debug or we build debug, or even like the PR actually runs the test, we don't get anything like this. So we dive deep into the, and as I said, this is the today view that I showed you earlier, but what we do is we dive deep into the logs to actually figure out what's going on. And we actually see that the compile Swift sources files step is actually failing, and it seems to be building for ARMv7 when this is really not expecting. So it's going to leave us, at least it left me thinking like this, because this is a real world example. But why is it building for ARMv7? The app's target, which uses the new today view, which is a Swift package imported by this NutriFit app target, which is the one getting released, the minimum deployment version is iOS 15. And we know that Xcode doesn't really build for ARMv7, we're targeting iOS 11. So, and as I said, today view is imported by the app target. It's a Swift package that's imported. So it should technically have the same minimum deployment version, right? Because that's the thing that's going to go out to users. But we start doubting ourselves, and we do some Googling to make sure that, this is actually the case, and ARMv7 is not supported for any versions higher than iOS 11. And we actually see in a thread from Swift forums that, or developer forums, that Apple have replied to someone saying that, to remove ARMv7, increase the deployment version target of the library to iOS 11 or higher. So we know that should technically work. But what is the issue? And this is an issue with Xcode 13. I believe this has been solved with Xcode 14, but we had this at the time because we were using Xcode 13. So yeah, the issue is that we hadn't set the platforms, and it's not inferring the platform from the targets it's getting imported in. So we need to set this manually and we set it to the same as the main app targets minimum deployment version, which is iOS 15. And this fixes our archive issue, so we can try again. And we're losing a bit of confidence that this is actually going to work, but yeah, we try again with archives locally. So what could go wrong? So again, we trigger the pipeline, that goes well. Bumping the version of the app, that goes well as well. And then we do an archive that succeeds. It's our expectation since it passed locally. And then we upload to App Store Connect, but we are getting a failure. What is this failure? Why are we getting a failure? Well, we go into the CI's logs and we can see that, yeah, Fastlane is telling us that there is more than one bundle with the bundle identifier dev.polpa.schedule. So the binary contains duplicated bundles, which is not really allowed. We can't upload a binary with duplicated bundles. This is related to a new framework as well. We can infer that it's related to a new framework called Schedule, which is one of the new frameworks that we have been working on during this release, and it's new. It is dependent on by multiple other frameworks, so we've just modularized a feature that was scattered all over the app, and we've put it in one place, and it's dependent on by multiple frameworks now. And the error is due to the way Schedule is being imported, and it might be obvious what it is due to if you're an experienced developer or you've been working in modular code bases. But if you're just starting and you see this, it might just be scary at first. But let's have a look. Let's simplify this with a diagram, right? And show how to fix it. So there's the main Nutrifit app target. This is the one getting released, the one going out to users. And it's an app target with iOS 15 as a minimum deployment version. This in turn relies on a framework called Schedule, and it embeds it and signs it. This Nutrifit target also imports a settings.framework target, which also relies on Schedule, and you see that it also embeds and signs it. And the same happens with another framework called Strict, which is also dependent on by Nutrifit and also embeds and signs Schedule. Well, you can tell that it shouldn't embed and sign it 3 times because this will generate 3 copies of the same framework, which is what's leading to the error in the binary. So to fix this, it's rather simple. The actual fix is rather simple. Getting to the fix and understanding why the error is happening can be a bit tricky at times. So yeah, the fix is simply just change anything that's not in the main target to be do not embed, and we only embed it once, and then we let the other frameworks just dynamically find it in the search paths. So yeah, we go again. We fix the issue. So what else could go wrong, right? So we just do it one last time, and as you can tell, our confidence has gone. Yeah, it's gone down quite a lot. We don't really know if this is gonna work, but we try again. You have to be positive, I guess. So let's try one last time. So we follow the same process again, same 4 steps. So trigger the pipeline, that goes well. We bump the version again. We archive, it all goes well. It seems very promising, but then another upload issue creeps up and we can't release again. We've wasted so much time already, and this is delaying our process. We just want our app to go out to the users, but we've not been able to get it out yet. So what's gone wrong now? And you can tell by the emojis that, at this point, you're probably very angry and your team is like, oh, we really, really want this out. What's going on? So the CI is telling us that the app's been built with an invalid toolchain. So with an unsupported version of Xcode or an unsupported SDK. So it looks like, in short, the version of Xcode in the CI is not supported. We can't upload to App Store Connect with it. So we need to change that. The app was archived with Xcode 14 beta 2, and we need a stable version of Xcode to be installed in order to release the app to our users. The reason why Xcode 14 beta was in the CI, it was because of testing. We just wanted to test new APIs with a beta version, as it was only available then, and we just forgot to install the stable version since it's been a while since our last release. So we just completely forgot, and the release process has not been run since at least a couple of weeks ago. So we need to get this sorted. So the answer, again, very, very simple, but not very, very quick. So we need to download and unarchive version of Xcode, which you can see it's 7 gig. If your connection is pretty good, the download won't take long, but the unarchive will take a while. So you might be left like this, looking at your CI go, unarchive, and you're getting anxious because you want to get your app out. But say you don't run into any other issues unarchiving, and you've managed to, pull through that long wait, and you're angry and you want to release your app. So surely now it's going to work, right? What could go wrong this time? So yeah, what you do is you repeat the 4 steps again, you trigger the pipeline, you bump the version of the app, you archive the app so you've got an executable that you can upload, and then the upload succeeds to App Store Connect. So you release the app, you go for a few beers and you celebrate and you're happy that it's gone out to your users, you get awesome feedback, and it's all good. But then you come back and you have to look at what's gone wrong, and you have to, take some action because you don't really want this to happen again. So you recap your release. So let's recap what's happened in this release. So the errors we've had were, one, on archive, we saw that some SwiftUI symbols could not be found, and it was building for ARMv7, and it was that platforms issue that we talked about. Then we had an invalid version of Xcode on the CI, and we had the same binary embedded multiple times. So yeah, there were a few things going wrong, and while most of these fixes were absolutely trivial, were actually quite easy to implement, we didn't have to write a lot of code for them, they actually took a while to figure out. So we wasted a lot of time, and potentially could have delayed our release multiple days while we figured out the issues. And if you're a one-person team, it might be fine to delay the release. But if you've got stakeholders and you're in a big organization with a big team, it could just be a big issue. You might get pressure from a lot of stakeholders and other members of the team to release your app, and maybe it's a critical fix that you're getting out. It fixes a critical crash, so you're really feeling like this while your CI is burning. So yeah, could we have got this early? How do we solve these issues? And the problem is, these things will happen. It's when you spot them that's crucial, right? So you should periodically check processes that don't happen very often but are crucial to you. So for example, a release is one of them. It doesn't happen very often. Maybe it happens every 2 weeks, depending on your release cycle. It might happen more often or more sparingly. But you should check those processes. They're very, very important. Certain workflows are also time consuming, so you can't run them on every push to main or on every PR. And scheduled workflows can be actually very, very helpful for this. So you can trigger them at specific times using cron expressions, and they're supported by most CI providers. And yeah, a good example of these are nightly runs, which is what I'm going to talk about in this session from now on. And this is an example. If you're not familiar with cron expressions, head over to crontab.guru and play around with the cron expressions. For example, for me, this is a nightly run, which runs every day at midnight, and I can do any checks on the release pipeline that I want. So the first thing to do is go back to our CI, where we've got the 3 pipelines, and introduce a new one, which is going to be the nightly pipeline. So what we want to check is what's gone wrong, right? So first of all, we want to schedule it every night for minimal disruption. And then we basically want to archive the app, as that will tell us about any archiving issues like the SwiftUI that we saw. And we want to validate the binary with App Store Connect without actually submitting any builds to TestFlight. We will upload and we will talk to App Store Connect, but we won't really submit anything. So show me the code. Bear in mind that the code in the next slides actually uses Fastlane, but the same can be achieved with normal bash scripts or any other tool that you use. So feel free to give me a shout if you've got any questions or you want to see other alternatives and other kind of code. So the first thing we do is create a lane that we can then run with Fastlane nightly, and we basically archive the app. So what this will do is generate an IPA with that path in the output name that I'm outputting there, and then it will sign it with the Nutrifit App Store provisioning profile. This will give us an IPA that we can then upload to App Store Connect. We use the deliver method for that, providing it an IPA. But what this will do is actually put the build on TestFlight. So we want to use this option called verify only, which it will only validate the build, but it will not actually submit it. It will upload, talk to App Store Connect, verify that the binary is okay to be uploaded to App Store Connect, but then discard it, not do anything. And then we run it, just calling Fastlane nightly. So you can run it from your workflow, from your pipeline, from your nightly CI, or even from your bash script. You can just run Fastlane nightly, and it will do all your validation for you. So let's just see it in action. So this is a video of me running Fastlane nightly locally on my terminal. And what it will do, as I said, it will archive and it will build with the App Store configuration of the app, with the release configuration of the app. It will sign it for the App Store, and it will output an IPA. So this is what it's doing at the moment. It's compiling and it's archiving. As we can see, the sign-in style is manual and the method is App Store, and it's using the provisioning profile that I provided earlier in the code. And then it's signing into App Store Connect with my credentials, and now it's running a verifying the binary with App Store Connect step. And what we will see, because this binary has been built with Xcode 14 Beta 2, what we will see is the error that we were getting in our CI. So we will see an error where it will say invalid toolchain version, this was built with an unsupported SDK or version of Xcode, and we'll see that in a second. We will see it failing. Yeah, there we go. So it's an invalid toolchain, your app was built with an unsupported SDK or version of Xcode. So we get the same result, but the beauty is we can run this every night and it will tell us well ahead of the release that something's gone wrong, and we've got time to fix it, and we don't have to do it on release day. See, if you want to learn a bit more about this, I'm not going to go into detail, but I implemented this verify only step, so I know how to use it, how it works under the hood. So if you want to use it with another provider that's not Fastlane, please let me know, and I'm happy to walk you through how it actually works. It is also open source. Any Fastlane commands are open source, so feel free to check it out on GitHub, and you can see how everything works. And the output might look familiar. So this is the organizer screen, which you might be familiar with in Xcode. And you've got all your archives, and you can hit validate app. This is in Xcode 14 Beta 2, building archiving Nutrifit for the App Store. And you can see that when I hit validate app, it will also tell me, asset validation failed, invalid toolchain, my app was built with an unsupported version of Xcode. So we can go, it's using the same mechanism, underlying mechanism as your CI would do if you were running this nightly step. But the beauty is you don't have to run it manually, right? You don't have to run it from Xcode, you can run it from your CI, which is great. So as you can tell, this is not limited to just validating release pipelines. So what else could you do? So you could do things like running expensive test plans that you don't want to disrupt other team members, or you don't want to run them very often because of cost, maybe because of how long or how flaky they might be. You can also collect metrics, so you could list the number of modules in the app, for example, if you're doing a modularization process, or show the amount of legacy versus new code that you've got in your app. And you can also do sanity checks, for example, so you could create dependency reports, track the size of the IPA to see that you're not making, you're not adding a lot of non-optimized assets, for example, and there's a lot of things you can do. So the world's your oyster, really. You can use your imagination, and you can run a lot of expensive steps that you wouldn't usually do on your CI on a push basis. You could run them every night and not disrupt any of your teammates. So as a recap, when to use scheduled workflows, when I think is a good idea to use scheduled workflows, is to, for example, to gain confidence in processes which are very important but don't get run very often. Such as a release pipeline. To me, this is the most crucial workflow and pipeline run in app development, because you need to get your app, it's very time sensitive. You need to get your app out to users. It might be a critical crash that you're trying to get out, but it doesn't happen that often. It's not like a push to main where you're gonna actually see it twice, 3 times a day if there's something wrong. It might happen once every 2 weeks. So you can gain confidence every night that everything's still fine. Your changes that you're introducing are okay with the release, and you're not going to have any issues when you release, and with minimal disruption as well. Also performing useful tasks, as we saw in the previous slide, that are time consuming with very minimal disruption to your teammates. And then last but not least, automating repetitive tasks, which always happen at a certain time. So once a week, twice a month. So for example, I use this on my GitHub README. I have a nightly build that grabs the latest articles from my posts and updates the markdown on my README file in my GitHub profile, and just pushes to main on my personal repo, so that my profile is up to date with my latest articles. So that's another example. It's a bit of a more like left field example, but you can, this is some of the things you can do with scheduled workflows. And also, you don't have to run them every night. So they can be with cron expressions. You can do it once every 2 months. You could do it once a week. So it's quite powerful. And then last but not least, say hi to me if you've enjoyed this presentation. Reach out to me if you've got any questions. I'll be in the chat, or make sure you send me a message on Twitter. And I also write blogs on my personal site, which you've got in the QR code on the right. So make sure you head over to paulpillet.dev and check out my articles. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye bye.